after Edison had spilled the ball, that therefore it was ruled out for offside, and therefore at half-time here at Stamford Bridge on the opening day for City of the 24-25 season, it is Chelsea 0, City 1. Well, let's go back to the studio where Clive Allen and Richard Dunn are in the company of Kel.
Welcome back to Matchday Live, half-time at Stamford Bridge, and it is Chelsea 0, Manchester City 1. Erling Haaland on his 100th appearance in his City shirt. Normal services resumed with the one goal that separates the two teams. Richard and Clive with me in the studio. Clive, I'll come to you first for your assessment of those first 45 minutes.
I thought it was interesting the way when City pressed Chelsea, they just didn't have that slickness of pass. They didn't move the ball well enough. City's pressure, obviously, they made it tell in terms of disrupting any flow that Chelsea could create. An absolutely sensational goal. Not only Bernardo Silva's touch, but the way Erling's taken that is just unbelievable. Fantastic finish.
How difficult of a finish is that? What Haaland's done, obviously with the layoff from Bernardo, and then he moves into the box.
Kel, he makes it look easy. What we say is you go cold in those situations. That's exactly what he does. He's totally in control of exactly what he's doing. He takes a couple of touches. The first one dragging it between the defenders. He knows there's pressure coming from Cucurella. The way he moves it off the outside of his boot to give him just that little angle, and then the dink at the end of it is just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely exquisite. And the move started from Doku, Richard, who had started on the right-hand side. It was Savinho on the left. And I think around 15, 16 minutes, they swapped sides. And then after that swap, 3 minutes later, Doku created the chance. So why do you think the swap happened, and why was that so effective?
I think the first 15, I don't think Doku was getting too much change out of Cucurella. I think he defended him quite well. He had one opportunity when he got around him and didn't put a great cross in. And he just looks more comfortable coming inside Doku. I think that's what he likes doing, is cutting inside, playing 1-2s and getting in that way. And yeah, within a couple of minutes of them changing back to where Doku probably wants to play, he creates the opportunity just with that. You spoke about his little body movement that he does, and he does it so quick that defenders always go for it. And then, yeah, from there, it's just quality. I mean, the touch from Bernardo Silva looks like nothing, but when you look at it really, he opens up his foot. He knows exactly where Haaland is. He expects to get a little touch on it to put him in. And then, like Clive says, the finish is brilliant. Everyone's going, shoot, 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 shoot. And he's just like, I'll shoot when I'm ready. And he just chips it. Perfect.
It was magic. And that's 43 assists for Bernardo Silva. Only 3 players with more assists than him in a City shirt. Wanted to mention the other winger there that we picked up on, Savinho. Premier League debut. I mean, it looks like he's settled right in, Clive.
Oh, absolutely. Looks full of confidence. Obviously, I think what he's done well is when he's received the ball up against Cucurella, he's just inviting him to make a challenge. And he has that such great control and touch of the ball that he's just nicking it past him, where Cucurella, I think, got very close to Doku and sent him on the outside. He's not sure which way Savinho's going to go, so he's finding it really difficult now to contain him. The switch definitely helped City in the flank areas, definitely.
And it was quite exciting. I think you mentioned that, Richard, while we were watching. We're playing with confidence, Savinho. You know, it's not easy to come to the Premier League, you know, turning up in this City team. We know sometimes players need a bit of time to bed in, but the confidence is, and it seemed to grow as the half went on as well. Once he beat Cucurella once, I think he beat him 3-4 times after that again. Yeah,
in a very short period, you could see that he's a real good player. He's got everything. He seems to have. He has that bit of speed, sort of enticing people into him because he knows he can get past them with his movement. But then the most impressive thing is he just keeps the ball. If there's any doubt, he'll just keep the ball. And I think for a young lad coming into Man City, the biggest club in the Premier League, one of the biggest clubs in the world, you want to impress and you want to do your skills, you want to show off a little bit. But he's resisted all that. He's done it at the right times. When he's 1v1, he's taking people on. Any doubts, any sort of block in front of him, he just comes back, starts again, and I'm sure that's what Pep would be looking at, going, right, well, that's why he's trusted him, I think, to play in the first game so quickly, that he sees that he does the right things. It was,
I feel like a tale of two halves for Chelsea. We were quite disappointed. I know you were, Clive, saying the way that they'd started. As we got into the second half of that first half, they seemed to grow into the game. We'll get to their goal in a second, but they did seem to find a bit of rhythm. Are City lucky to be going in 1-0 ahead and not 1-1?
Well, I think that they've given up a couple of chances, City, and I think think Pep will be disappointed about that. There was a couple of occasions where they made chances where they got the ball forward quicker, Chelsea. And Cole Palmer, again, we talked about if you get him the ball, he can be dangerous. And the one real opportunity came from him receiving the ball in the final third, coming in on that favoured left foot, the shot spilled by the goalkeeper, but Jackson was offside. So they have to be aware of that. They have to try and stop that initial pass to Cole Palmer. In the early stages, there was no problem at all. I think Chelsea were uneasy. They couldn't get any passing game going. I think it was a very good start. It was 20 minutes or so before they worked their way into the game.
Speaking of passing and them getting that control, we earmarked that, you know, the central midfield was going to be a key battleground. I think after them first 15 minutes, Romeo Lavia had 100% pass completion. I think 28 passes in that first half, every single one completed. So I guess that's where their control then started to come back from a little bit. And very impressive from Lavia, because we know he had a bad injury last season.
Yeah, he missed big chunks of last season, and he's been a player who's been earmarked for a big future for a long time. So it's good to see him back on the pitch. And I think what they've done, the three midfielders, they're not massively creative, but they've kept the ball well and they've moved it out to the wings and they've supported play. And it seemed like they didn't want to make a mistake in the first 20 minutes. They're like, right, when we get it, we'll just play long because City are expecting us to play around with the ball or whatever. By the time they started to play football, they were 1-0 down, and now it's more difficult for them to get back into it. But they certainly look like they'll be involved in the second half. They'll be a real threat in the second half. And we spoke earlier. I think you can see they're crying out for an experienced centre forward, someone who knows the league, someone who's sort of switched on the whole time. You can see with Jackson, he's in and out of the game. He's not concentrating on what's happening. He's offside in a really bad position twice, really, where the linesman allowed it to carry on for a long time. So, yeah, they're coming back into it, Chelsea, and they will create more opportunities. So City can't sit back on what they've got.
No, it's all, and Kovacic obviously is the one that's stepping in for Rodri in that midfield area. How do you think he fared in that first half?
I thought he started really well. Obviously disciplined in the role that he has to play. When he broke up play, he was very efficient with the ball. That was important. And he is really that screen for the two centre halves to stop that ball going into Jackson, or Nkunku comes in off the line. You can see great experience. He understands the role. I thought he carried it out very well.
Yeah, he really, really did. Looking into this second half then, what do you think Pep would be saying at half-time, and what would you maybe like to see from City in that second half, Richard?
I think they'd like to get a bit more control of the ball again. I think Chelsea have worked their way into it. We spoke earlier and we thought, well, City are going to have plus 60%. It looks great, but then I think by half-time Chelsea have almost had a little bit more. So I'm sure he'll want to try and get control of that a little bit more. I think there's been a couple of longer balls which have caused problems for City as well. So they just need to switch on. I think as the game progresses and the spaces do start to open up, then you might see Phil Foden come into onto the pitch, and he can take advantage of that.
And with Chelsea, I mean, I guess there were positives there for Enzo to pick up on in the second half. Would that be a case of trying to build on that then from a Chelsea point of view? Yeah,
I think he'll be wanting more, obviously. Certainly, I think they need to move the ball quicker. When they've had possession of the ball, they've played it square rather than trying to break lines and get the ball into Cole Palmer. So I think that he will be emphasising that, even maybe getting the ball forward a little bit quicker, trying to hit Jackson. A couple of opportunities came when they hit the centre forward and they had runners in Nkunku's pace off the left. So City have got to be aware of that, really.
Yes.
And I think that's what he'll be emphasising at half-time.
It's in trouble. I think this young Toast in there as well, a City Academy graduate, of course, signed this summer for Chelsea. I think it was on a free. Could you maybe see, do you think Enzo might be looking into, I mean, maybe bring him on or freshen it up a little bit, possibly in the second half, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about the squad that they've got and the options they have. The players on the bench, again, have real quality, real good attacking players as well on the bench. And as it goes on, you would expect that they'll start to come on more so probably than Tosin. But I think they'll be quite happy with how they've gone in that the second part of the first half. They were really good. They kept possession, they started to create opportunities. So for them, it's a little bit more of the same. And then if the result's the same, maybe the last 20 minutes, they might change it.
And it always is. I think we see it so often that it's the calls of the managers with the substitutes and how they come on and impact the game that can change the whole result and the way that the game ends up. I think managers earn their money. I think so often now with the changes that they make, the substitutions and how they affect the ends of games.
Bro, I'm guessing Pep might want to freshen up a bit into the second half. We have our possession game, which we're bringing to Matchday Live this season. We're all going to take a guess at how much possession City have during the game. And the closer you are, you want the smallest amount of points available, so you want to get as close to that as possible. Clive, you guessed 58, Richard 60, I was 55. City currently with 46, which is such a surprise because it didn't feel like that watching it in a way, but also we're just never used to really seeing City, you know, only having 46% possession in any game.
Yeah, I think that's the way that Chelsea played. They when they did have possession of the ball, they played a lot of square balls, and they went out to Gusto, who then came back through the centre halves. So it wasn't productive play in terms of possession, moving the ball forward quickly. And I felt City pressed really well early on, then after 10 minutes or so just dropped a little bit deeper and almost allowed Chelsea to have that possession because they didn't carry a threat when City were back behind the ball.
And for City then, how do they maybe get that back to that control that we definitely felt in that first 10-15 minutes, Richard?
I think what they did early on in the game was they pressed Chelsea and forced them into those long balls, and then it was easy for the centre-halves to pick it up. After 20 minutes or so, they took a step back and they allowed Chelsea to build up. They allowed them to have comfortable possession. So maybe getting a little bit more on that front foot, pressing them higher up the field and starting to pick the ball up. And it's difficult because City eased away. When you watch the last few seasons, it's always the same. They start off great in games, but they pick their moments throughout matches. So they might have another 20 minutes to start where they have a real go, and then they'll sit back again. So it's great to have loads of possession, but like Clive says, Chelsea are 50-odd% across their own back line a lot of the time. It's a sideways passing, and it's only when they recover the ball high up the field from City's mistakes that they create opportunities. There's no real great build-up play from them where they're getting in different situations. It's more winning the ball up and then they're getting the chances from them.
Then they're getting the chance. And then I guess actually if we can kind of use then the brains of Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo, so they are the masters of almost, and Rodri, but he's not playing, of controlling that tempo of the game.
Yeah, I think that's vitally important. Obviously, you get the ball to De Bruyne. He will do that. He anticipates when he can play forward quickly or whether they need to keep possession of the ball. We talked about the substitutions. You can imagine with Phil Foden's energy and going to press, he would be one who can really lead that press with Erling Haaland. So there's lots of options. It'll be interesting to see which manager makes that move first, who makes that change, and whether there's a counter to that from the two coaches.
It's we've obviously got Phil Foden, and we've mentioned that. Also on the bench for Manchester City, obviously Kyle Walker, John Stones, Nathan Ake, Jack Grealish just coming back from that knock he picked up towards the end of pre-season, Nunes, McAtee and O'Reilly. Naturally, it feels maybe a Foden, but no, the fact that Grealish maybe might come on and give 60 minutes, he does bring a bit more of that, I guess, control rather than the explosiveness of a Doku, Richard.
Yeah, obviously the experience as well of the big games. He's had a really good pre-season up until the knock that he got, so he'll be desperate to get back onto the pitch. And I think the two young lads they've experienced now, I suppose, and certainly McAtee and Nick O'Reilly, they've been really good, and they're players that can keep the ball, that can control the tempos of games, and it'll be interesting to see if he trusts them, to see if they can do it in the Premier League.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I think Savinho had that knock to the knee. It depends how he is. You could see a possible change with Grealish coming on with that experience for him if he's not right in the second half.
That's it.
Foden there just coming on.
There we are. So we can confirm it's Phil Foden. It's Pep to make the first move, Clive. Phil Foden, we just saw come out onto the pitch. We're assuming it might be for Savinho, but Alistair Mann will be able to confirm that for us. So get the commentary on the Manchester City app and come join us at full time. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Clive. Thanks to you. It's currently Chelsea 0, Manchester City 1. We'll see you at full time.
Yeah, welcome back to Stamford Bridge. Phil Foden is indeed out for the start of the second half, and there is no sign of Savinho. So that blow that he took where he was banging the floor and he had spray administered, clearly he had to give in to it. And so Phil Foden, after just a handful of training sessions,